I have talked about Lori Lightfoot in Chicago. I have talked about Ayanna Pressley in Massachusetts. Now we are about to take a trip back to the most quote unquote liberal state in America, and that is California, where we will be discussing Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, where he's basically effectively doing the same thing that the first two people that I mentioned are doing, and that is cutting checks for undocumented illegal immigrants. At this point now, I think everyone sees the pattern. These individuals are trying to get reelected, and this is the base that they're catering to. So Gavin Newsom is going to cut $500 into a $125 million stimulus package for undocumented immigrants, and I think they can get upwards of up to $1,000, maybe even more per family. It reads, and it's coming from the Washington Times, California will cut $500 checks to undocumented immigrants struggling to pay bills because of the virus pandemic, the state governors announced Wednesday, becoming the first jurisdiction to offer a rescue package to people who aren't in the country legally. State taxpayers will shell out $75 million from their disaster relief fund, and another $50 million will come from a network of philanthropic foundations. Undocumented immigrant adults can get a $500 check with a maximum of $1,000 per household. Mr. Newsom anticipated about 150,000 people will get a check, a small fraction of the state's population of perhaps 2 million. He said the program fills in the gap in the federal Wuhan Rescue Bill, which is paying most adults up to $1,200, but does not cover immigrants who are in the country legally. That should have been a sign right there why they're not getting one, because they're not American citizens. At least they're not here legally. They didn't sign any papers. They came across the border and they basically are squatting. But you have people like him, Ayanna Pressley, and Lori Lightfoot, and I'm sure there are going to be more to follow, who are just willingly giving this stuff out. But when black people was asking for reparations, they couldn't find out one dime. But they found it for them. What does that tell you? We are now beneath illegal immigrants as far as a priority goes. As far as a people priority goes to these politicians. We should be insulted, not surprised or shocked, but definitely insulted. Every Californian, including our undocumented neighbors and friends, look at how he called them, undocumented neighbors and friends, should know that California is here to support them during this crisis. We are all in this together. That seems to be like a running tagline for the entire establishment, because I can't remember how many times I've heard that saying, we are all in this together. They will be able to apply beginning in May. Mr. Newsom did not say how the state will verify the payments are going to undocumented immigrants, but said the money will be handed out by regional nonprofits that he said have expertise in reaching the immigrants. Now, see, that's a red flag for me right there. I mean, as if them giving them money wasn't a big red flag enough. That was more like a red banner, but this is a red flag. It says how they don't know how the state will verify that the payments are going to them. So y'all could be just sending these checks to anybody. Anybody could just go out there and say, "Oh, I'm an undocumented immigrant." If they can convince them enough, and it works. Last week, he announced the state's Medicaid program would pay for testing and treatment of the virus for any state residents. The virus crisis has become a proving ground for immigrant rights activists who say the 11 million people in the establishment without permission are often on the quote-unquote front lines of economic activity, such as working the farms to keep the food supply intact. Really think about that for a second. They're basically saying if they are here illegally, they are the ones who is doing mainly a lot of the harsh labor. That's why I be saying I know that a lot of these individuals know that these immigrants here are illegally, because they'll give them jobs that they know they can't give it to anybody else to do, but to keep them there because they're a good worker, they'll keep them there. And they won't, snitch on them to say ICE or anybody, or to deportation to get them to leave. That's how you know that if this thing went belly up, those people who hire people like them to work for them, they are going to be SOL. For real. Activists also point to thousands of dreamers who have tentative status under the Obama-era DACA program and who are working as nurses, or hundreds of thousands of migrants here under the Humanitarian Temporary Protected Status program who are working mainly low-wage jobs. Look at all these programs that they have. Democrats on Capitol Hill have demanded the administration automatically extend those and other work permits, giving migrants a chance to remain beyond their current allotted time. The Trump administration did take a small step Wednesday, ruling that agriculture guest workers here under the H-2A program will be allowed to stay beyond the 3-year limit and can switch employers too. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf said that would help stabilize the food supply. In California, immigrants' rights groups cheered Mr. Newsom's announcement, calling it a bold statement on behalf of those here illegally. Well, that just shows you right there, he's basically going to cement his reelection. This is a recognition of the fact that immigrant families are essential to our state. I bet they are. Their economic and labor contributions are keeping us going. There it is, said Angelica Salas, director of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. She said the federal government has ignored undocumented immigrants, so the state help is important. Mr. Newsom said the foundations the state is working with have said that they can raise the additional $50 million. The California Migrant Resilience Fund has $5.5 million in the bank right now and is soliciting donations from the public online. Now look at that. They can set up a makeshift GoFundMe, because that's basically all it is, on a wider scale for them to get money. And he's doing this for undocumented illegal immigrants that are not only not from here, but they didn't come over here and do the proper stuff to get legal status. Amazing how all of that works itself out, and they still get preferential treatment over us, and we were born here. And they'll tell us to stop looking for a handout. Amazing. CIRF says 1 in California workers is here illegally. That's crazy. Let me read that again. CIRF says 1 in 10 California workers is here illegally. Now, I believe that the state, the governor said that it's a population of 2 million in the state of California. 1 in 10 are there illegally working. Do the math. That's a lot of undocumented immigrants. The fund said it may pay more to undocumented immigrants in the high-cost area around San Francisco compared with the state's Central Valley region. The California Immigrant Resilience Fund is a critical investment because so many immigrant families have been left out of other aid packages, yet these residents face consequences to their health and safety that would be compounded across future generations, said Debbie I. Chang, president of the Blue Shield of California Foundation, which has committed $1 million to the funds. So they even got their other outside sources who have big pockets to donate to them. They don't call California the most liberal state for nothing, and this right here just proves it right. This right here actually surpasses what Lori Lightfoot and Ayanna Pressley did, in my honest opinion, just based on the numbers I'm hearing. And of course, it would cost them more because California is such a huge state. Like, it takes up literally the entire left coast with the exception of Washington and Oregon. But that's crazy. It's not, like I said, it's not shocking at all. But it definitely is insulting to us, considering we were already here, and they're getting more set aside than the people that were actually born here in the States who live in California. All they're going to get is the $1,200 stimulus check. That's it. They're getting $500 off rip, and plus possibly additional more money. So if they got an additional $1,000, they are already up $300 more than the people who got a stimulus check, which means they are American citizens. But the undocumented illegal immigrants who should not be here, they're getting more money. Why? Because they probably work for those rich palm-colored people out there. So basically what it's saying is you can come here legally. You can, as long as you work here, we won't snitch on you. And we'll reward you. Amazing how all of that works. But like I said, just reading that tells me now that the illegal immigrant, especially the one that probably comes from Mexico, has now surpassed us as far as a priority. We literally are at the bottom. For real now. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Twitter if you haven't done so already. Have your notification turned on, and I'll talk to you in the next one.